Thank you. All right, today is Monday, June 24th, 2024. Today is a committee of the whole, a regular legislative meeting for Barberton City Council. I apologize. Before we begin our regular legislative meeting, we do have individual committee meetings for this evening. And we'll start with City Properties, Parks, and Recreation with Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the City Properties, Parks, and Recreation Committee to order. It's June 24th, 2024. Time now is 6:04. And we are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Rebecca Gearhart as co-chair, Jennifer Hagar, and Justin Greer. And all other council members and others as noted on my sheet. We have 0 requests for legislation, 1 pending legislation. Is ordinance number 54-2024, presented by myself. The enter in contract with various city properties. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract to sell various city-owned properties and declaring it an emergency. For miscellaneous discussion, on June 13th, Parks and Recreation had a meeting at the Parks and Recreation building, and I'd just like to speak about a few bullet points that we took from that meeting to share with the rest of council. The Mumfest is a go. It's all set up and ready to go. Set for September 28th and 29th. And that's a good thing. They're putting a lot of work in and effort in, as they do every year. There was a ribbon cutting on the 15th of June that the mayor previously talked about at the skate park at Decker Park. Myself, Councilman Shorter, and Councilwoman Rebecca were present, as well as the mayor and a lot of other people. It was a good time. They gave away skateboards and tennis shoes, which I thought was really cool. And the director, Patterson, was there as well. The Parks and Recreation will be selling Mumfest t-shirts for anyone that's interested in buying a Mumfest t-shirt. It's the non-volunteer t-shirts. Early, it's only $15 if you get it early. If you get it during the Mumfest, it's $20. If you would like to purchase one, please contact the Parks and Recreation Department. Parks and Recreation, they have plenty going on this summer, and I noted a few things that they have going on for the kids, which is excellent. They have day at the park, pop-up field trips, rookie t-ball, and water adventure camp. That's all going on or will soon be starting at Parks and Recreation. With that, I'm going to leave the floor open for any discussion from the committee. From council? From the gallery? Rebecca, did you have something that you jotted down or wanted to say?
No, I think you covered most of it. I think Mr. Patterson talked, the cameras are almost fully in.
Yes.
So that was good. I learned on Friday, if you have a water feature in your park and it's half working, you call Parks and Rec versus the water department. So, you know, I'm always learning.
Oh, yeah. And thank you, because I forgot about the cameras. The cameras they're still upgrading the cameras. Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you, Councilman Harris, for being at that meeting as well. Any discussion from the gallery? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Adjourned at,
6:07.
thank you, sir, 6:07. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Next up is Public Welfare and Safety with Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd like to bring the Public Welfare and Safety Committee to order. It's Monday, June 24th, 6:07. We're in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Mr. Cheatham as co-chair, Ms. Gerhart, and Mr. Greer. We hit all other council members and others as noted on my sheet. We have 0 requests for legislation, and we have 1 pending legislation, which is ordinance number 55-2024, enter into a contract, U.S. Royce Protection Service. An ordinance authorizing the Barberton Municipal Court to enter into a contract with U.S. Royce Protection Service, further known as Tenable Protective, for a 1-year period running July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, to provide unarmed uniformed security officers for the municipal building. And that is it. Do I have anything from my committee? Other council members? Gallery? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We are adjourned at 6:09 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next up is Rules, Marketing, and Development with Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the Rules, Marketing, and Development Committee to order. It is Monday, June 24th, 2024, and the time is 6:09 p.m. We are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Mrs. Beck, Mr. Heidick, and President Greer. All other council members and others noted on my sheet. We have 1 new request for legislation at this time. A letter from Fulton Benya, Assistant Planning Director, requesting legislation approving the FY 2024 CDBG Annual Action Plan. Emergency wording and 1 reading is requested. Former Planning Director Pete Worsler discussed this with us at the public hearing that was held last month on Tuesday, May 28th. Does anybody have any questions about this? Can I get a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. We have no pending legislation at this time. I do, however, have a special presentation from Director of Foundation Josh Gordon and the Foundation's new economic developer, Mr. Gil Gonzalez. If you guys would like to come up and share.
Well, thanks for inviting us back. I know that there's been a lot of conversation about economic development in the community, and it's a clear need we have. Prior to beginning my tenure as executive director for the foundation, I was a board member for a while, and I was at a retreat. Mr. Mayor, you and I were there together 10 plus years ago, where it was decided that economic development was one of the most important things that we could do in the community. But that it was a really complicated effort. It took a lot of coordination. We're fortunate that Mayor Judge is actually a certified economic development person, and so I can't remember which organization is it, IEDP? OEDA. It's an acronym. Ohio Economic Development Association, got it. So there's some expertise kind of running that stuff, but there's a lot of different things that are required in order to conduct revitalization of a community from an economic development standpoint. And so the foundation, as a funder, as a convener, as an organization that can help promote these things, we wanted to come at Councilwoman Gerhart's request to just share a little bit about the foundation, what our role is in economic development. And you said I had 2 hours to present, is that right?
We like to keep it just under 2, but
Bring
even
it
if you
down,
go over,
just
you'll be
under 2.
fine. Yep, you'll be fine.
So I'll just remind everybody, our mission, any chance I get to talk about the foundation is like my favorite thing to do. And so I just want to remind everybody of our mission and really talk first about the current and future generations thing. Because a lot of times we forget the future generations, but our job as fiduciaries of this gift and this nonprofit charity is to create as much value or more value for future generations than current generations are feeling. So that current and future thing is really critical. Then collaboration, leadership, and creating a legacy to do good. There's a lot of good to do. So I'll just give you like a quick history since I'm here and it's on YouTube, in case people are watching and don't have a lot of history of the foundation. In 1996, there was a vote, issue 5, it passed with 72-point-something% of the vote, which was to change the hospital's articles of incorporation, Barberton Citizens Hospital, and use the proceeds of that sale where the articles are changed, so the proceeds no longer would go to the city government if the hospital were sold, but instead would go to fund a newly formed community foundation. That is what that vote was in 1996. And part of that was a promise to build a couple of things, one of which was a high school. So that was a campaign promise to build that high school, which, the law director ran that campaign. I was going to point to her. But building a high school and then the active adult center were two, multi-million-dollar projects that were on the foundation right away from inception 27 years ago. All in, with the debt service and the interest payments and all the stuff, the high school ended up costing the foundation $58 million. So that was a $2.3 million check that was signed and sent over every single year. And that was despite an economic downturn in 2008, despite rising inflation, all these challenges and headwinds. We don't collect money, people don't donate to the foundation's endowment right now. We have to work on that. So the only way that we can grant is based on how the investments do, right? So there's a lot of work to govern and manage that. So we've done some big projects. There's other ones here listed, buying Norton Homes and helping to facilitate now where the land where the middle school is. So we have a campus set up between the high school and the middle school, which is tremendous for our community, amongst many other projects. All in, the foundation, between grants and scholarships, has put $109 million into the community, over $109 million into the community in its 27 years. And it's something that everybody in this room should really feel proud of. And as much as we've done, there's so much more to do, and economic development is a big part of that. So initiatives, areas of focus for us right now, obviously we've invested in Main Street Barberton in addition to sharing the investment in that, the seed money for $50,000 per year for 3 years. We did year 2 this year, year 3 is next year. We also buy sponsorships and things, and the organization is really doing a great job, and Gil Gonzalez here will give some shine a light on that here a little bit. We have a couple of economic development programs. The economic development throughout the city, is really critical for us. So we're creating programs, grant programs, to support businesses, to support the community in that way, to bring more jobs, potentially to take existing buildings, especially downtown, and just up them a little bit. If people want to make an investment in their building or their business, we have a program for that. So we've done a lot of different grant programs to the city of Barberton and to the Barberton City Schools. We have a scholarship program that we're continuing to work on and evolve and enhance as much as possible. Financial growth for the foundation is important because a lot of people don't know this. This will be on your foundation trivia later. But we have 116 funds at the foundation. 116 different funds that fit our charitable purpose, which is quite a bit to manage. One fund is the largest. That's the total net assets of our original endowment. That is the large, potentially transformational fund that we have to take care of and we have to grow because it can do the most good for the most people. Okay. There's a lot of different organizations that work on economic development. If you're not familiar with them, the foundation has just one small sliver with the different programs and so forth that Gil will outline. The city does a tremendous amount through different partners that they've engaged as well, through business retention and expansion activities and many other things that the city does a good job with. BCDC, who I think we're all familiar with, is a Community Development Corporation, so it's a CDC, and it can do a lot of different, a variety of different granting programs and loan programs for area businesses that need some extra support and maybe were turned down by a bank, but could use some extra support. And then Main Street Barberton, I think we've all heard a lot about it. Would you believe that next month is the 1-year anniversary of Main Street Barberton? It's kind of hard to believe because we've been talking about them so much, but it's been an exciting initiative to see get off the ground. So I'm going to turn it over to Gil because this is more his area of focus, is the economic development activities of the foundation.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
So if you all have hard questions, we'll leave those for Josh. The
That's
softball ones, you just leave those for me. But I'm really happy to be here, honored to be here. This is my first, outside of introducing myself to the Planning Commission, my first time talking to the community as well as the Honorable Council here about what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we can partner and collaborate, and more importantly, kind of what's to come. That's really what's exciting about this community. I love the enthusiasm, the collaboration that's currently going on, and more importantly, just the opportunity that collectively what we can accomplish. It's really impressive, and it can create impact for generations to come, which is why we're all here. So we kind of broke this down when we talk about economic development. Our goal is to support and grow our existing businesses and be a catalyst for new businesses to either come to the city, relocate here, or expand here. Of course, Economic Development 101 is to retain and grow what you have. The mayor and his team has a wonderful team at Insight and others on his team who are going out there doing site visits. But our goal, as Josh said, is to collaborate with those efforts, to bring value where we can, and to maximize those efforts. We want to increase good-paying jobs for all residents of Barberton. It's pretty simple as that. There's really no science to that, or no big. Let me rephrase that. It's the goal for all of us here while we're doing economic development. I'm going to break down kind of the focus areas of what we're doing now, as well as kind of share a little bit of insight into what we're planning for the future. But really what it comes down to is my day job is working on the funded programs, of which Josh highlighted those. That's EDAP, the Economic Development Assistance Program, the Downtown Revitalization Program, and the Downtown Barberton Signage Program, which I'll give you a quick snippet of each one of those. Focus on standing up, getting Newell Street shovel ready so that we can attract the right tenant and or tenants to that site and or developers, making it shovel ready, getting the necessary environmental studies and so on and so forth, so that when we get into marketing the property, it's going to be shovel ready for site selectors and otherwise to review. And then something that we're all especially passionate about is career technical education pathways for good jobs. And we'll chat a little bit about the polymer sector work that we're doing. And as Josh stated as well, is just working very closely with Barberton to make sure that we have the right buildings, right properties for the tenants that are growing here, as well as to attract tenants and businesses that want to come here. So Main Street Barberton, as Josh mentioned, it's coming up on its 1-year anniversary. I'm thrilled with the fact that you have a homegrown Barberton resident who is running that program in Melanie. She is committed to that program, passionate about it, works overtime to make sure that she's doing all that she can for this program. I'm not going to speak too much to this, but obviously we're a funder, but we're working very closely with her on some of our programs, grant programs, because of course all of those can be maximized with her help. She has a beat on what the property owners are doing, what tenants are doing. She has tenants that are reaching out to her currently, and we just want to make sure that we're supporting her efforts on that. Their focus, as you can see, is the downtown, the 2 streets, and I think it's total 70 buildings that are in that geographic area. And again, making sure that she's doing all that she can to market the property, do events, and we attract the right tenants to those properties. And again, making sure those properties are up to code, et cetera, as part of that, which we work closely with the city on addressing here shortly. The Downtown Rehab Program, which is DERP for short, I really want to stress this, and I really hope you all, if you do have applicants or businesses that you've heard of, whether they're friends or acquaintances, the application is still open. We encourage folks to apply. I will share some of the applications or number of applications and type of businesses that are applying right now. But if you're our best marketing arm. So if you know businesses that should qualify for this, then please have them reach out. The target is private building owners, tenants can apply for the program. However, they have to have sign off from the property owner because there's going to be improvements to the physical property that are going to take place, like roof repairs, window door replacement, improvements to the mechanical structure, HVAC, so on and so forth. You can see the list right there. Facade repairs, we have one applicant whose building has a brick wall and that's starting to bow, so they're applying for the program as well. But all of that is just going to help them stay in business, grow their business, and employ residents of Barberton. The process is pretty straightforward. You can go to the website. We stood up a new grant application process through Go Apply, but I would encourage anybody, if you have folks that want to apply, like you're going to have my cell phone, you have my email address, you can reach out to me personally. I'm happy to walk folks through the program, answer any questions, and make sure that they submit a strong application because of course that's what we want to see. The process for approval is that, of course, after all the program documents are submitted, it's submitted to the BCDC review committee. The review committee awards the projects and notifies us, and then the BCF, Barberton Community Foundation, notifies the project owner and builds a time frame. Of course, there's follow-up that needs to be done to make sure that the improvements were done, and we review all of that work as well. You all probably have been in this store, which has been awarded. This is a 22 awardee, Magic City Comments. We're on the phone with the owner today. He has 2 locations. He started here in Barberton, eventually expanded into Akron because he was doing such good business. Expanded their footprint here in Barberton by 80% with a $20,000 grant. Now they not only go from comics and novelty items like that, but now they have a vintage clothing line, and they're also starting some gaming opportunities as well. So it's really great to bring those sort of residents into downtown Barberton. He's really a poster child for the program. I do want to highlight it. It is a reimbursement program, so there is no money that's allocated right up front. They're going to have to do the work first, submit the receipts, documentation that they did the work, and of course we review it so they can get reimbursement. We give the approval, but BCDC is actually the one that writes the check. EDAP is one of the second programs that we're overseeing. Again, this application is still open, so I'll highlight what qualifies, and this is actually one of the more interesting programs because there is a jobs component, and the quality of applicants who have submitted already, they're checking all these boxes, but of course the more the better. But there's focus areas: doing building improvements, leasehold improvements, you can purchase equipment, manufacturing, anything that's going to help increase payroll by hiring folks, because there is a job component that's certainly supported, infrastructure, utility, telecom, as well as any sort of site development. So if you have a property owner that's looking to expand, add on to their building, that would qualify as well. I don't need to go through the process. Again, it's pretty much the same process as DERP. But again, if you have applicants who should be applying, who are interested in this program, please have them reach out. I'll highlight one that the mayor's team worked very closely on, and we're certainly proud of it as well, is Rock Hill Machines. I was just interacting with them about a week ago. They received a $65,000 award, made a capital investment about $125,000. They hired 6 out of the 8 projected. They're currently looking for 2 more, and we're actually talking with the mayor's office and other folks to connect them with some of our CTE resources, whether it's Barberton High School or folks within the 4 Cities Compact. But these are the sort of really good paying jobs that we want to attract. They're on average paying $60,000. The next 2 positions actually going to be upskilled, so they're probably going to be paying a little bit more. And then the downtown Barberton signage program, it's closed. This is essentially, and it's a program that I haven't seen outside of CDBG funding in other communities, but it's a program that will help obviously increase more desirable signage for downtown businesses. Working really closely with obviously Melanie at Main Street because she's in touch with many of these property owners. But you'll see the highlights of what qualifies: exterior signs, wayfinding for downtown visitors, so on and so forth. That was really small, so I'm not going to get too far into that. But it is a reimbursable program. There is some matching funds that are required. If they don't have the matching funds, they can apply through BCDC for a low-interest loan, which will help offset it. But again, every single one of these programs adds to trying to reinvigorate downtown Barberton. Here's your 2024 awardees down in the bottom left. I think Melanie made this public, I don't know, a few days ago, but I wanted to share those with you. The program is exhausted. We have quality applicants who are awarded, and it will open up again next year. So 401 Newell Street, this is obviously a project that can transform this community. I don't need to reiterate that to this audience. It's one of the very few assembled parcels that's controlled by one owner that has the necessary cleanup due to the city and the foundation, and we will shortly have all of the environmental studies complete within the next 30 to 45 days. But it's a really exciting opportunity to bring the right type of employers, if that's the direction that the market goes, to Barberton, and especially in a key area that's right across the street from the high school, in a polymer innovation hub as part of the Greater Akron Chamber. So we're really excited about this. Our shovel-ready kind of approach is making sure that all the studies are done, talking with all of obviously our county economic development counterparts or folks at the state level, but also the private sector and folks who are both on the commercial real estate side, but also on the site selector side. There will not be any stone unturned to make sure that the market understands that this site is available. We will list the site eventually with a national firm, and our angle there is twofold. One is that they have tons of tenants in tow who are looking at sites across the U.S., and we want to get into that pipeline, along with marketing that we'll do with the city, with the mayor's office, to make sure that the appropriate folks know that the site is available. Project goals at the end, or at the bottom, as you said, is to get this listed, bring the right jobs to Barberton, not just any jobs. I think that that's critical. The folks that we're talking to on the commercial real estate side, this isn't going to be a quick sale for them. This is going to be a patient project for the right fit or fits of tenants / job creators for this community. We've formed a really strong relationship with the polymer cluster out of Greater Akron, thanks to Jason's work and what he's been doing over there, and the mayor's work, and other economic development organizations. And the word that we've heard from all of these folks is that they're really impressed with the approach that we're taking. They know this is kind of a unique asset, and we need to make sure that it's shovel ready to go out to market. Looking to secure offers by the end of 2024, just based on the timeline that we're at right now. All that kind of
questions on that one?
No. Getting it ready, and you're going to use national firms to try to find people that want to come.
Yeah, we'll secure one. We're in negotiations with one listing group that's a national firm that's very qualified in this market, delivered in this market, and has access to all of the items that we're looking for.
Did we still have one business in Barberton that wanted to go over there?
Some discussions that I know that the mayor's office has had with folks, I'm kind of playing catch up on some of those discussions. From what I understand, there's still growth opportunities for businesses that are here, but nothing that's hard and fast where there's a solid commitment. But of course, all of those businesses are going to come first priority because we want to grow and keep what we have here. So if there is an opportunity, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
This is a really exciting opportunity, and I want to just tell Josh, give him a lot of kudos, but also the collaboration of folks around the table who have come as part of this Polymer Cluster Workforce Development Working Group, which is a mouthful. I'm not going to say that twice, but this cluster has received, and it should be public soon, a pretty substantial award to create pathways for the polymer industry with I think there's over 1,300 polymer-related companies within the Greater Akron area, which includes us. And this is something that the national, federal government is also very interested in, and also the state, from a supply chain perspective, it's critically important. So we're really excited about this. We had our first meeting, brought Bridgestone, Manufacturing Works, Connex NEO, the folks from the Polymer Cluster, of course, out of Akron, ARDL, and SchoolJoy, which is a curriculum development program for career pathways. Brought all them to Barberton High School, I want to say that was probably 3 weeks ago, and had a productive conversation and mapping out next steps. The next action item is that the school district is going to be following up with the grant recipient, because there are some available grant dollars that we can tap into now that the foundation may be able to add on to, perhaps leverage, to train more students in Barberton. And this isn't just students in Barberton, I kind of misspoke, it's also adult learners as well, which is really exciting because all of the above are needed. So this is, as I said before, and I know I say this often, but this is a unique opportunity here in Barberton where you bring someone new like myself who didn't even know where Barberton was 6 months ago, or the city of Barberton, but also coming in this role and very humbled and excited about the opportunity through the foundation to work with the mayor who's been around, all of you who have been at the table, the folks with the institutional knowledge who have laid the groundwork and the collaborative approach to really do all of what we outlined here. Is at the foundation, we want to be the convener. We want to potentially fund where we can and where it makes sense, and solve problems to create opportunities for all the residents of Barberton. Again, I'm excited about the opportunity. I think what's also critically important is that having a plan in place is something that I've heard, not only meeting with business owners, but community members, stakeholders, and alike. And once you have that plan in place with the institutional folks here and some of the leadership that's kind of now in place, I think that you can do some really big things in Barberton. Not I think, I know we can. So I'm really excited about that and honored to play a small part in that.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions if anybody has them.
Will the career tech and polymer cluster be something similar like ran through that Four Cities Compact, or is this totally different?
So what we're looking at right now is just doing it in Barberton. It's something that could potentially scale. One of the true hidden gems about our community is that with 9 square miles and leaders that can talk to each other and work together and collaborate, and we can send that signal into the world that we're able to work together and collaborate, we're a great place to pilot cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a good example of something that's really cool to pilot, where we're developing a polymer pathway, like a graduation pathway for kids to come out with a career making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, maybe a paid apprenticeship, internships, all kinds of opportunities. Because as the investment comes from the federal level and the state level, these businesses are all going to be growing and expanding, and they don't have enough workers. So the average age, according to Nikki, who's the vice president of Akron Rubber Development Labs, just here in Barberton, moved here a few years ago. Foundation helped with that. We'll plug for the foundation. She said that the average age of a worker in the polymer industry is 60. So, and it's not the kind of thing where you go get a degree in polymer and you're good to go. I mean, there's a lot of jobs. Lab techs make 45, 50 grand a year almost right away, but they need on-the-job training from institutionally knowledgeable people that are passing that information and skill down. It's not the kind of thing where you go get a piece, go get that degree and then come back and you're ready to make money now. You can come out making money, and we want to create the kind of programs that enable that. So the Greater Akron Chamber already has a grant, and that the foundation could potentially match it depending on how this next part of the process goes. But it could equal a $250,000 investment in Barberton focused on building a first-of-its-kind polymer pathway right in our community to pilot, to test, to see how it works and functions, and then let it scale to Four Cities Compact, let it scale throughout the region. But Barberton is going to be where the model's built, right? Because we can lead.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, I just said that would be amazing.
Can you send us this?
Absolutely
It's too
not.
tiny, I can't see any of it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
We tried to make the font smaller.
I could barely see it.
Thank you.
And as a rookie at this role, I actually forgot my thumb drive, so I had to drive back. But
That's the nice thing of
Josh was patient.
30-second drive.
Exactly.
back.
So, Gil, you've said that 6 months ago you never even heard of Barberton.
That's
So,
right.
2 favorite things you found so far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, Scoops has got to be up there.
We have nearly year-round
He's not
ice cream.
sponsoring, they're not
ice cream
sponsoring us.
stands.
Not sponsored.
And, it's interesting because I feel very welcomed here. And coming from California, that's not always the case. So I don't know if that's a Barberton thing, if that's an Ohio thing. Yeah, so I certainly feel welcomed here. So, and I appreciate that a lot.
It's part of our magic.
There you go.
We're glad to have you, and thank you guys both for sharing today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
thank you
for
for your
inviting
time.
Lori.
Email me that.
Sure.
I'll print it off and see that they all get a copy.
No problem.
Thank you, Jen.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Did we have any miscellaneous discussion for my committee? From the rest of council? Or the gallery? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:37 PM.
Thank you, Ms. Gerhart.
You're welcome.
Next up is City Utilities with Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities, I would like to call this meeting to order today, June 24th. We are in council chambers. The time is 6:28. All members of my committee are present. Myself as chair, Jennifer Hager, Emily Beck, Jessica, and all others noted. We have no requests for legislation to call for tonight, and we have no pending legislation. Do we have any miscellaneous discussion for utilities from the council, from gallery? Yes, Mrs. Gerhart.
How's that pipe inventory coming?
What inventory?
I think it's
water line?
pipe water line inventory.
The
Have they
service
talked about
lines.
that? I just wondered if they were getting more responses.
Oh, where you have to take a picture of your, yeah.
I don't have the numbers in front of me.
I just wondered if you'd got, I think last time you talked you had
I
50.
mean, they're increasing.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have the numbers in front of me.
I was just wondering, we hadn't heard about the pipes in a while. Okay. I think we got to get a picture.
I got it.
Why they take the picture and
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have anything else? Any more questions? Okay. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. We have a second?
I'll second.
We're adjourned at 6:40. With that, pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, June 24th, 2024, 6:40 PM here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidig, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Greer. All other council members are also present, as well as guests as noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation, as that's reserved for committee of the whole evenings, and no presentation for finance report today. We do have one pending legislation, that is ordinance 53-2024, which I will need a motion to amend in committee, as we do have the amount. That will be enter into contract, insurance, coverage, property, vehicle liability, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Wicker Insurance Company in the amount of $475,814 for 1-year renewal of the current contract for the city's property, vehicle, equipment, liability insurance coverage due to expire on June 29th, 2024, and declaring an emergency. This is about a $80,000 increase from last year due to the economy and inflation, the property values going up significantly, as well as replacing some of our vehicles. So the cost of that's going up as well. Can I have a motion to amend this to include that amount?
point of order is, it's already been read one time. Doesn't it have to be amended on the floor now?
True. No,
Instead of committee, since it's already been read once?
You can't amend it in committee.
you're gonna have to, that's a good question. I don't think so. I asked her to amend it in committee, but if it has been read once, it's only been read, it hasn't been voted on.
Right, but being that.
You want to amend it on the floor, but it would still be the finance committee that has to amend it anyways.
Right, but I
Okay.
thought it was ordered that it would have to be on the floor to be amended, not.
Well, we can do it in both areas, so we can do it in committee or on the floor, right before the initial vote.
Once I read in the change, when I read it, that it was amended on the floor by the finance committee during the committee, I will read that into the minutes, and that might be sufficient, because
Okay.
it'll show that it was amended and voted on, and it'll be in the minutes.
Yeah.
But it has to be read that way during the meeting for the minutes.
Chair, I asked Derek Miller for her opinion.
Yeah, if it's been read into, if it's been voted and called for in the first form, it has to be amended on the floor.
Okay, so I guess we'll do it then. All right, and then we have one pending appointment for Mr. Angeloff to the Barberton Community Foundation, starting immediately, ending December 31st, 2026. Is there any miscellaneous for finance and personnel? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
And a second?
I will second that.
And we are adjourned at 6:45. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee meetings. We're going to take a 3-minute break, and we'll come back and begin the regular legislative meeting.
write something down.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we're going to begin momentarily. If you can, again, just ensure your cell phones are off or on silent. And council members, ensure your microphones are turned on. Need the A-OK. Okay. All right, good evening. Today's Monday, June 24th, 2024. This is a regular legislative meeting of Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 6:53 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation by Ms. Gearhart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. James 3:17 and 18. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is full of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for our ability to gather here this evening and serve the citizens of Barberton. I pray for your wisdom as we lead, that our leadership would be selfless and bring peace. Bless this council, our administration, all of our city departments, those protecting our city and our residents. In your name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Ms. Gearhart. Clerk, please call the roll.
President Grimm.
Present?
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mrs. Thompson.
Here.
Mrs. Hager. Here. Mr. Cheatham.
Here.
Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mrs. Beck.
Here.
Ms. Gerhart.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here. Thank you. Look for approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, July 10th, 2024. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting from Monday, June 10th, 2024.
Thank you. And Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, June 10th, 2024.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and second by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Tuesday, July 10th, 2024.
Monday, June 10th.
Monday, June 10th. June 10th, 2024. I know, I even cruised over this beforehand. All right. Are there any remarks? Other remarks? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are adopted. All right. Looking for a motion to approve the finance report for the month of May 2024 as presented. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the finance report for the month of May 2024 as presented.
Thank you. And Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion for approval.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and second by Mr. Heidick to approve the financial report for the month of May 2024 as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Finance report is accepted. Petitions and claims. Matters requested. Citizens addressing council. There are none. First reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 55-2024, presented by Mr. Harris. Nope. Ordinance number 54-2024, presented by Mr. Cheatham. Title, enter into contract various city properties. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contract to sell various city-owned properties and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. And Ms. Gerhart?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mr. Cheatham's motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Cheatham and seconded by Ms. Gerhart to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the council, or please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 54-2024.
Thank you. And Ms. Gerhart?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Cheatham's motion on adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Cheatham and seconded by Ms. Gerhart to adopt ordinance number 54-2024. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
Ordinance number 55-2024, presented by Mr. Harris, title Enter into Contract, U.S. Voice Protection Service. An ordinance authorizing the Barberton Municipal Court to enter into contract with U.S. Voice Protection Service, formerly known as Tenable Protective, for a one-year period running July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, to provide unarmed uniformed security officers for the municipal building and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mr. Cheatham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mr. Harris's motion on that adoption. I'm sorry. Wrong
On
page.
suspension.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I would like to second Mr. Harris's motion on suspension.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mr. Cheatham to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 55-2024.
Thank you. Mr. Cheatham?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to second Mr. Harris's motion on that adoption.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mr. Cheatham to adopt ordinance number 55-2024. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Mrs. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
This ends the first reading.
Second reading of ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 53-2024, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Title, Enter into Contract Insurance Coverage, Property Vehicle Liability. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Wicker Insurance Company in an amount to be determined, constituting a one-year renewal of the current contract for the city's property, vehicle, equipment, liability insurance coverage due to expire June 29th, 2024, and declaring an emergency. This is the second reading. The first reading was June 10th, 2024.
Thank you. Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to amend this ordinance to reflect the premium amount to $475,814.
Is there a second? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second Councilor Thompson's motion to amend.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mr. Heidick on the floor to amend ordinance 53-2024 to change it from to be determined to the amount of $475,814. Clerk, please call the roll on that amendment.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hyden?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion for amendment carries. Clerk, could you please reread the ordinance?
Ordinance number 53-2024, presented by Mrs. Thompson. Title, enter into contract insurance coverage, property vehicle liability. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Rickard Insurance Company in the amount of $475,814, constituting a one-year renewal of the current contract for the city's property, vehicle, equipment, liability insurance coverage due to expire June 29th, 2024, and declaring an emergency. This is as amended on the floor this evening. We added the amount.
Thank you. Motion to suspend, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rule is required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter be suspended.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second Counselor Thompson's motion on suspension.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and second by Mr. Heidick to suspend the rule as required by Section 5.10 of the Barberton City Charter. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Motion for suspension carries. Motion to adopt. Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 53-2024.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion to adopt.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and second by Mr. Heidick to adopt ordinance number 53-2024. Are there any remarks? Clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yes.
Mrs. Hager.
Yes.
Mr. Heidick.
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes.
Motion for adoption carries.
This ends the second readings.
Third reading of ordinances and resolutions.
We have none.
Appointments.
To the Barberton Community Foundation, Board Member Mr. Bradley Angeloff, term to start immediately, which will end December 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of Mr. Bradley Angeloff to the Barberton Community Foundation Board Member, starting immediately through December 31st, 2026.
Thank you. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion for appointment.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mrs. Thompson and seconded by Mr. Heidick to appoint Mr. Bradley Angeloff to the Barberton Community Foundation as board member for the term starting immediately through December 31st, 2026. Are there any remarks? Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I sit with Brad on the BCDC board, and I think he is great. He asks questions. He has a lot of different thoughts and ideas that he brings to the table. So definitely like a good board member. I had already sent over some concerns that I had to Mr. Gordon just to get questions out there, and he answered all of them, and I agree with him. Brad's background in the commercial banking, I guess is the best way to put it, would be really good at the foundation. Where I've kind of been struggling, and I'm pretty new with all this and new with my committee, marketing and development, is if we should have a voting member of the BCDC on both boards. If there's going to be some conflict of interest there. I know I talked to Josh and Scott about if we'd ever have quorum issues. It is a very big board, but there's some potential. It's not impossible. There's also like just some different things. I think, a lot of what you guys shared tonight with the foundation is like kind of a growing towards economic development, and that is exclusively what the BCDC was created for. So like things have been changing. We've had the foundation director sit on the BCDC board in a non-voting role, and then we just changed that 2 months ago to a voting role. So there's just some shifts happening that I'm not sure like what that will lead to. I know the BCDC manages the fund distribution for the foundation, So there's already a heavy crossover there. We, at the BCDC, have different committees, and there's a grant committee where there's 4 members that are approving the grants from the foundation. And 2 of the people on that board are already friends of the foundation. So there's already quite a bit of intermingling. And I don't know if that will always help us keep like super, like if people were to reach out, is the accountability and some of that stuff there. So that's just what I've been struggling with.
There's no debate. Is that all you had to say?
Yeah.
Any further remarks? Mr. Cheatham, I know you had your hand up.
You said, what did you
No,
say?
no debate. It's just remarks before.
Yeah, it's all right. I pass.
Is there any further remarks? Mr. Hurst?
Over the past week, I learned that the desired protocol of the foundation is to have people be involved as a friend of the foundation for their first 3 years, serving on a committee, and then coming onto the board. To my knowledge, Mr. Angeloff has not been a friend of the foundation. I'm not saying Mr. Angeloff is not qualified. He's a very good person, very knowledgeable to my experience with him. But if we're going to follow the rules or desired protocol of the foundation, I'd like to see him as a friend first, and then look at the board. And that's all I have.
Is there any other remarks, Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's nice to see some new blood coming into some boards there. This isn't a debate, but I will make the point that the Friends of the Foundation is not, just because it's desired, is not a rule. Their articles do not refer to anything of the Friends of the Foundation. It's not policy. It is basically a loose committee, but and nowhere in their articles of incorporation or their bylaws does it mention any prerequisite to be on something that is kind of a de facto committee that has no voting power, has no influence, no anything. Just wanted to make clear on the rules there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Is there any further remarks? Sorry, it's only for the council members. All right. Seeing that there may be some opposed, is there, I'm going to ask for all those in favor, raise your hand. And opposed, please. All right. So it's 6-2. 5 was required. Mrs. Angeloff, or Mr. Angeloff, she's been here for a while. Mr. Angeloff is appointed to the Barberton Community Foundation. All right. There are no other appointments. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. We have none, I guess. All right. Is there anything from the body? Anything from department heads? I have nothing, so communication from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the Barberton Community Foundation, Director Josh Gordon and Gil Gonzalez for presenting this evening. Hopefully that opened up some eyes and gave you a little more insight into that sector of the Barberton Community Foundation. Change for Change is this Friday at the Moose on 31st Street, benefiting Magical Theater. I hope to see everyone out there. We're closing in on $100,000 raised through Change for Change and other benefits that we've held since 2012. The contest for the artwork to wrap utility boxes, the deadline was this past Friday. Received over 91 pieces of artwork that were submitted. So we're working to kind of sift through that. The quote we received was for 18 boxes, not 91. So we're going to sift through that and come up with a plan and start moving forward with that. Thank you, council. I've met with all council members so far. Completed that today on your goals and priorities. So thank you for your time, and I'll get all that information compiled and sent out here soon. Last Friday was Barberton Day at the Rubber Ducks. Turned out very well. And speaking to the owner, it was the biggest pre-sale they've seen in 3 years. So, and they won, so that's an additional bonus there. So, this Friday starts the first summer concerts. This Wednesday is the 26th, is the first day concert here at Lake Anna. So hope to see everyone at those. Farmers Market continues each Tuesday at the Orange Lot, or if you're my age or older, at the old Barberton High School, or at the intersection of 2nd and West Hopkinton. You pick the same location though. And then just another reminder, as the infrastructure projects continue throughout town, your continued patience is appreciated. And please drive slow and adhere to all the signage and lights and possible traffic pattern changes that will be going on. Getting into next week, July 4th, and holiday and the weekend, they're going to try to button things up as best as possible, and want to make sure that everyone's getting to and from wherever they're going in a safe manner. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions. Yes.
To your knowledge, has the signage been fixed for the detour over near State Street? Because from my experience, it was sending people into neighborhoods and then just ending, not finishing. Mr. Tiedecke?
The contractor and ODOT were made aware of that early this morning. They're working with the contractor on numerous signs that were either missing or put up incorrectly. They know about it. They're working with the contractor to get that changed as quickly as they can. I don't know what quick is, but they're working on it.
So they know about it at least. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any word or news on the West Coast building?
The Cox Powell Herald building?
Yes.
So we've been in discussions with a developer. It's my understanding that an agreement will be coming here to City Council here soon. And there's a deadline factor for that. So more information to come here very, very soon. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Didn't think so. This meeting is adjourned at 7:15.